Hello, I'm Shannon Harris. Thanks for tuning in to Window in Wilmington. On today's show, we'll have information on the Mental Illness Awareness Week from National Alliance on Mental Illness Delaware. We'll also tell you who Voices for the Voiceless is and what they do. And we'll check with friends of Riverview Cemetery and tell you how the cemetery restoration is going. But first, Congressman John Carney is the State of Delaware's lone representative in the United States House of Representatives. Since taking office, Congressman Carney has sponsored numerous bills to help create jobs, reduce the deficit, and grow the economy. And Congressman Carney joins me now for the first time right here on this couch. And yes, it is the first time, but I'm glad you're here to talk about all this great stuff.
It's great to be here.
Well, you need to come more often.
Invite me, I'll come.
I'm going to hold you to that. You will definitely be invited.
Yeah, please do.
So, a lot of things going on in Washington.
A lot of things going on in Washington. Unfortunately, really, from the perspective of what we're trying to do for the country, we're not getting the work done for the people that we should get done. And it's really, there's really a lot at stake, We went through a really bad recession after 2008, and we're rebuilding that economy. And local areas like the City of Wilmington are experiencing significant challenges with crime and unemployment. And if we could just step up to the plate in Washington and get our work done, it would help out across the country.
Right.
But there's huge political divide in the nation's capital. I try to bring what we refer to as the Delaware way there, where Democrats and Republicans try to work together. But it's very different there, I mean,
Right.
Here, City Council is overwhelmingly Democratic. Newcastle County, the same thing, and the General Assembly, the same thing. Well, where I go to work every day, the Republicans are in control, so I kind of have to work across the aisle to get things done.
Still difficult, though.
It's very difficult and frustrating as well. People, when I talk to my friends back here in Delaware, I come back on the train every night. People ask me with sympathy in their voice, how are things going down there?
Right.
Things are actually getting a little better, believe it or not.
Right, right.
So I'm optimistic.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. And hopefully once things work out, where there's not such a divide, we'll be able to move forward, because it affects all the local municipalities in such a great way when there's such gridlock there.
It really does. I mean, we should be doing things to help, like the City of Wilmington and the State of Delaware, with infrastructure needs. The Port of Wilmington is a tremendous asset and employment center here in the Delaware region, Wilmington, and the whole Delaware Valley region. We ought to be making investments in ports and other infrastructure that would create jobs and strengthen the economy. And we're not even able to do that, which is a little unusual. Historically, Democrats and Republicans generally agreed on infrastructure spending
Right.
for roads, bridges, ports, airports, things that you need to create jobs and so businesses can be successful. Not so much. And the reason is we don't have a fiscal plan.
Right.
If we had a fiscal plan that folks could agree on, then it would be a lot easier to prioritize those items.
We were talking a little bit earlier about jobs. Delaware at one time had a great manufacturing hold in the market. They had GM, they had Chrysler, and not to mention all the smaller subsidiaries that came with that, Mopar and all those
Absolutely.
things. All gone now, and I know that you're trying to work on ways to generate
The thing that
jobs.
keeps me up at night is where are those jobs going to come from in the future that support middle-income families?
Right.
Where are those jobs that provide opportunities for people who want to move up into the middle class? Just think about the City of Wilmington. 50 or more years ago, there were manufacturing jobs in this city that helped supported middle-class families here. Where I grew up in Claymont, along the Delaware River up there into southeastern Pennsylvania, Marcus Hook and South
Right.
Philly, lots of manufacturing, industrial kind of jobs. Of course, not so much anymore, particularly in the City of Wilmington. All of those shipbuilding and other industries along the riverfront are no longer there. We've built new kinds of jobs. And the new jobs, even in manufacturing, require higher skills.
Right.
Higher skills than ever. So the kids coming up in Delaware today, I live on 19th Street right behind Warner School. Kids that are going to Warner School this morning, as I was coming back from the Y, they're competing against kids going to school in China and India today, right? So it's a higher bar. So they've got to think not just about graduating from high school And far too few kids in the city of Wilmington graduate from high school. It's around 50%.
Right, and
It's terrible.
Department of Education is really, I guess, facing an uphill battle trying to level the playing field
Yeah,
here.
we should all prioritize that, because what businesses will tell you is that the quality of the workforce really is the most important factor in locating businesses. They talk to the governor, the delegation, Senator Carper, Senator Coons, and myself about that all the time when we go visit businesses. Where are the skilled, educated workforce so I can grow my business here? For instance, J.P. Morgan Chase, they bought the 2 buildings right down there by the Wilmington train station. There are hundreds of people that work in there. Most of those people that work in those buildings come in from other places. They come in on the train, and they do, a lot of them do computer science, technical work. Why can't we grow those workers right here in the city of Wilmington and Newcastle County? We should be trying to do that. And employers, trust me, are going to look at a region and say, how well are they educating their young people? How well are those kids doing, for instance, at Warner School right down the street from where I live? How well are those kids doing? And they've got to go on to do education beyond high school, whether it's Del Tech. The Wilmington campus here does a tremendous job. My office is right around the corner on 3rd and King. Tremendous job in an affordable way.
Well, now you've recently introduced legislation to make higher education more attainable for families who are middle and low income.
So at a time when what we just talked about is the backdrop and the imperative, higher ed beyond high school is more expensive than ever. It's 4 times. The cost has grown 4 times incomes, right, since I was in college. 4 times. That means it's 4 times less affordable for ordinary folks than it was when I was in college. That was a long time ago.
I don't think so.
I was in college. It was a long time ago. But still,
so.
it's not a question of, it's a question of relative to incomes.
Right.
Right, so it's going beyond income, so it's much, much harder, 4 times harder, arguably.
So now the legislation that you introduced, how will this help
Yeah,
folks?
so we've tried a couple things. One is we've reintroduced a bill that would give higher grants particularly to students who are in science, technology, engineering, and math, because we need those
Right.
graduates, and we're
Right.
not getting enough of them. And then we also introduced a bill last week that would require colleges and universities to have some skin in the game, right? Instead of just living off federally guaranteed student loans, that they have something to lose or put in if they're not meeting a certain standard with default rates. Well, we went across the state. We had a telephone town hall meeting. 4,000 Delawareans joined us, and we heard all kinds of stories from students about the debt that they had. Some students with debt over $100,000, and they had a job, working as a waitress, in a restaurant, working a couple jobs. So people are getting out of school. They've spent a whole lot of money, and they're not getting the jobs that they need to pay the loans back. It's a real problem. The other problem with it is they don't have the money to buy that new car, to put a down payment on a new house. So that's going to affect them, into the future, and it affects the economy. It's going to affect housing values and the ability of people to own houses. So we've got to figure out a way to do it. The government can't kind of go in there and just tell colleges and universities, lower your prices.
Right.
But we can require them to have skin in the game with student loan and grant programs that are funded by taxpayers. It's an important investment, and we should do it. But we ought to have some buy-in from the colleges and universities. And of course, our flagship colleges and universities, University of Delaware, Delaware State University, their tuition is more affordable than if you went to a private school out of state by a lot.
I wanted to ask you, we're running out of time, believe it or not, really quick. Crime in inner cities is often an issue, and
It's
I
a
think
big issue in
with
the city of
Wilmington being
Wilmington,
so small, the numbers even seem larger because of the size of the city. What do you see as
Well, I think there are 2 ways that we have to approach it. And first of all, we have to approach it as a team. It can't just be the mayor's problem or the county executive's problem. It has to be all of our problems. And I know we've tried, the governor, a congressional delegation, meet with Mayor Williams on a regular basis. I mean, we have federal assets and there's state assets on the law enforcement side, and that's an important part of it. It's the bulk of it is centered around street corner drug dealing and the competition for turf, and the shootings kind of follow that kind of pattern, the competition for that turf, and there's a lot of gang related stuff. We can help with that, and we've offered those federal services to the city. The mayor has instituted really important new programs, a downtown safety program, which I think is really important, because you can't threaten that lifeblood of the economy in our city, or then we're really in trouble. But the root causes of it go back to what we were talking about a minute ago in terms of the lack of failure in education and jobs.
Right.
I mean, people are doing this because they didn't graduate from high school, right? And they aren't able to get that job in this new economy. Used to be, they could graduate from high school and go work at General Motors or Chrysler or some other industrial facility and make a good income, lift themselves into the middle class. Can't do that anymore.
Right.
And that's really the root of the problem. So it's related to what we started talking about. And we've got to do a better job at educating our young people, whether it's at Warner Elementary, over where I live, whether it's at the high school level in Delaware, and also encouraging kids to graduate, make sure they graduate. That 50% graduation rate in the city of Wilmington, that's got to be close to 100%.
Right.
And then those kids going on to Delaware Tech or to the University of Delaware, Delaware State, or to colleges and universities outside. Because I'll tell you, what employers are going to say, they want those higher level skills. And we can't take you. Let me give you a perfect example. The delegation has these job fairs, and we've had like 20 of them over the last couple of years. And we've learned, frankly, as much from the job fairs as I think the people coming in. So I talked to the lady that was there recruiting for Bloom Energy down at the University of Delaware, the new Star campus. And I asked her, I said, what are you looking for? She said, I'm looking for two things: attitude and aptitude. The willingness to come to work and work hard and put yourself out there, and number two, the aptitude, the ability to continue to learn as their processes change. Okay. Well, that's a good thing to know.
That's a good thing to know.
Yeah.
Real quick, if anyone wants to see any of the legislation that you put forward, if they want to read up about you or just know how to contact the office, what can they do?
So if they Google John Carney for Congress or John Carney Congress, they'll go and they can connect with our websites and get all that information right there. And if they have any questions, feel free to call our office or stop by the office right down there at 3rd and King.
Very good. I'm so glad you could be here today.
Great to be here. And I'm coming back. You said you're going to have me back.
Trust me, I will be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with NAMI Delaware after these messages.
Thanks for calling the GED Pep Talk Center. Jerry Stiller speaking. Your level 7 in-your-face pep talk.
I can keep pushing. Believe me, I'm good at it.
Once you've got your GED diploma, you'll feel so good about yourself.
You tell him.
Mr. Trejo, can I transfer this guy to you? He needs something a little more
Persuasive.
Yes.
Whatever motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Get your GED pep talk and find free classes at yourged.org.
Today, school kids rely on the internet for so many things: homework, math, research. What about kids who don't have internet at home? Hello, I'm Theo Gregory, Wilmington City Council President. The internet is essential. As many as 80% of low-income families do not have access at home, including many right here in Wilmington. So help bridge this gap by supporting local broadband adoption programs. Let's get more students and families connected to the power of the internet.
Welcome back to Window in Wilmington, and Congressman Carney did not leave. We're still right here.
Back here.
Yeah. So we're good. So we can finish our conversation.
Great.
So we were on the topic of crime in the city of Wilmington and how to address it, and you mentioned that it leads back to all of the things that we had talked about earlier: lack of education, poor jobs. So all of that is like this whole big ball of wax.
That's exactly right, and that's why it's important for everybody to realize it's all of our problem, right? It's not just the mayor's problem. It's not just the city police's problem. There are two, as we were saying, there are really kind of two things. You got to confront it from a law enforcement perspective on the streets. You can't allow that kind of lawlessness. One of the things I don't think we do a good enough job. I was for several years the chair of the Criminal Justice Council, and I'm not a law enforcement guy or a professional or anything. My job was kind of to coordinate among the police agencies and the Attorney General and different groups as the chair. But I was convinced, I kept asking the question, what are we doing to get illegal guns off the streets? What are we doing to stop purchasing illegal purchases of guns? And it turns out it's kind of really hard. It's hard because what happens is people that are prohibited, right? So somebody who's got a felony record, they can't go in and buy a gun in a gun store. But they have friends or somebody, maybe somebody who is on drugs, who needs, needs a fix. And so they get them and they send them in, they give them however much money, and they go in and buy what are called, a gun for somebody else. For law enforcement to counteract that, they've got to do what they call straw purchases. They got to go in and do it themselves. They got to track down, those people who bought that gun. If you go and visit them a week or 2 weeks later, show me the gun that you bought. If they don't have the gun, then chances are they're buying it for somebody else.
But now, do the gun buyback programs work? We see a lot of communities
I hear a lot
doing
of different things from that. You get a lot of guns off the street, and from my perspective, that's a good thing. Probably you're not getting it from guns, from the people who are actually using the guns on the street. I mean, they're going to have their weapon, right, and they're not going to bring it back for some small amount of money. But it does. You do get guns out of homes that create a safety hazard, right, for people. Some people don't know how to dispose of it, what to do with it. So, maybe it's a woman who's lost her husband and he had a gun and they don't know what to do with it. So you get some of that. So I think law enforcement will tell you that, it has some positive impact, but it's not really getting those guns out of the people that shouldn't have them on the streets. And that's really, you think about what's happened in the city of Wilmington, it's really that gun violence that has brought the drug dealing to a whole new level in terms of the danger to citizens. And some of these, older senior citizens who live in these neighborhoods are prisoners in their own homes. It's sad.
That is sad.
Really sad.
Let me ask you something. With the gridlock the way it is in Washington, what are some of the things that you can still accomplish using the power and the responsibilities of your office?
Well, there's really a lot that we can do as our office in terms of directly helping constituents, whether it's with Social Security disability applications, whether it's with Social Security problems folks have getting their checks, whether it's with Medicare enrollment and getting approvals for certain procedures. I mean, there's a whole housing issues we deal with all the time, consumer issues all the time. It's incredible, really, how many constituents call the office for help for this or that or the other thing. And we get involved a lot with constituents who have issues with state agencies or private companies or that kind of thing, just using the authority, if you will, of the office. And I used to be lieutenant governor, and so people know me and they call my office just to find out how to get things done or how to solve a different problem. So that's actually one of the parts of the jobs that I really like. You know, you do get an opportunity to help people every day, even though as you go to Washington, you're not getting things done that you really should be getting done. And you know, there are things that we ought to be able to get done in Washington as well. Immigration reform is one issue that comes to mind. I mean, we have a broken immigration system, and we need to fix it. And there's a lot of consensus across the aisle, on both sides of the aisle, about certain things. One of the areas we were talking about a minute ago is these high-skilled immigration visas, right? So we're not generating. This is the sad part. You know, our education system is not generating enough science, technology, and math professionals, and so the country has thousands of what are called H-1B visas that they make available to foreign people to come to the U.S. To do these jobs in computer science and engineering and that kind of thing. And a lot of those people, they come here, they work legally through that system, and then they apply for citizenship, and they really make great contributions to the country. Well, we need more of those, right? Well, if you don't, without comprehensive immigration reform, you can't have that. We take advantage of farm labor, seasonal farm labor that non-citizens, people from Mexico and Central America. And again, there's an allotment of visas for folks to come during the harvest season and take advantage of those employment opportunities, as well as helping the growers bring their crops in. Here in Delaware, we have the watermelon harvest in August. We have the poultry factories that are actually year-round, but there's a limit on those legal visas. So you end up having a lot of people who come here illegally do that work. It's, you know, the employers are at risk there legal for hiring folks like that. But so we need to change that, and it would help our economy. At the same time, we need to be cognizant of the fact that there are jobs out there that Americans should have the skills for. We're having a forum at Del Castle that we call Blue Tech, and it's basically to bring employers together and the teachers and students at Del Castle and their parents to show the kinds of skills that are being required and demanded in the workforce, but particularly some of the advanced manufacturing firms out there, and the kind of things that the kids are doing at the VOTEC schools. We need to do a better job of linking the skills that are required in the workforce by these manufacturers and others with what's happening in the schools.
I want to ask you, before we go, we are been working on an education campaign here at WITN.
Great.
And what I've come to find out is trying to reach the youth that are at risk of dropout rates. You know, it's almost like you can't really just talk to them. You need to kind of reach their parent.
It's a family, you know, you just think about any successful young person, you know, they did a lot of it with their own motivation, whatever, but guess what? Most of it came from, you know, a responsible adult who was making sure they were doing the homework at night and in the house and not hanging out on the corner. I think about my own. I was one of 9 kids. My parents were both educators, but you know, we weren't allowed to watch TV at night. Of course, there wasn't much on. It was only 3 channels in those days.
3, 6, and 10.
3, 6, and 10. That was it. Maybe you had 17, 29, and 48.
Right. Held the rabbit ears, right? So you get it. I know those channels.
But you know, we were supposed to be studying, and so left to their own, I don't know many young people that would, you know, buckle down and do their homework and do the right thing without that guidance or discipline that's imposed in the household, and not enough kids have that, you know. And so we have to think about that, and how can we replace what's not there? It's a hard thing to do, but after school programs are really important, and some of the community organizations in our city do a great job with that, you know, making sure the kids come right from the bus, right from the school into the community center, whether it's Kingswood or whether it's LACC or where it might be, and then they're doing schoolwork. They're doing the thing. They're kind of replacing that, you know, that parent that's not there to make sure that they're doing the work that they need to do.
In some cases, this is the only stable
that's exactly right.
atmosphere that these kids will have.
Right. One of the things that we did on the Criminal Justice Council to address the violence issue in the city is we provided funding for these centers to stay open later, so into the early evening hours, to bring those kids off the streets. Now, most of the kids who come are not the ones that are out dealing drugs and shooting people and that kind of thing, but they could be if they're out there in that environment during that period of time. So we need to give them alternatives so that they won't be there.
And now you're really leaving this time.
Now it's time to go.
Now it's time
You're
to
gonna
go.
kick me out of here?
Well, I don't really want to kick you. Yeah, you got to go.
Well, you said I was going to come back, so
you are going to come back.
You're going to hold me to that, I know.
I definitely am. Albert, make a note. I'll be calling you. All right. So thank you so much for joining us.
Really
and
good.
I really do look forward to you coming back and sharing some more of the work that you're doing.
Thanks very much.
All right. Now we'll be back with NAMI Delaware after these messages.
We are your Wilmington City Council, and we're also your neighbors. We're asking you to let us know about your community events, achievements, concerns, and issues.
That's why we created a special email address that will connect you to all of us in City Council.
Drop us an email about things going on in your neighborhood with Community Events 22 at wilmingtonde.gov. That's Community Events 22 at wilmingtonde.gov.
You wanted to be a teacher when you were little, but things changed. Teaching didn't seem that cool anymore, so you decided to become something else. But what would your 12-year-old self say? Amazing things are happening in teaching, so it's time to put it back on your list. Don't try to convince yourself otherwise. You had it right the first time.
Mental Illness Awareness Week is October 5th through the 11th. Courtney Riches and Chuck Tarver are here now to tell us about the events that will take place during this week and where you can go get help for yourself or your family member if you have issues. And we're actually taking selfies with Courtney and Congressman because this was VIPs.
Yep, we're doing a Talk About It campaign. So we're taking pictures with all Delaware VIPs, so encouraging everyone to talk about mental illness. So
that's great, and we'll put this on our Facebook page
yeah.
and try to get the word out that way as well.
See? Yeah. Okay. Thanks for staying. All right.
Thank you.
Bye. As he goes off the set. Don't forget your papers. So I am so glad that you guys could be here today. Yay. All right. So Mental Illness Awareness Week, the 5th through the 11th. So what's going to happen?
A lot. There are so many events going on during the week, and what we really wanted to do is create different types of events that everyone would want to get involved with, whether they're awareness events, fundraising events, or education events. So a couple of the ones that we wanted to highlight were a candlelight vigil. So we're going to be doing that on Sunday the 5th, and it's really just a service of hope and remembrance for, you know, the hope for a cure one day, and then remembering those who are no longer with us.
I got to ask both of you guys, a lot in the news lately has been happening with folks who are having some kind of mental breakdown. And you know, it's been a lot of tragic events.
There have been a lot of tragic events.
Yeah.
So that has sort of raised the awareness. What we need to do and what we're working to do now is to let people know that there are ways to move people toward recovery. Yes. That we don't always have to wait for the catastrophes to happen, that we can get people into treatment and get people really contributing to society as opposed to to going through desperate times.
Right. I just think it's amazing the things that are happening, and I wonder if everybody's really paying attention to the mental health issue.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's the tragedy with Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Started a lot of conversation about mental illness, but the unfortunate part behind that is you wonder if people are really talking about mental illness, or if they're just talking about the loss of Robin Williams. Both important, but you know, the awareness behind discussing the actual mental illness and the effects it can have on everybody, and not just
and that's
actors.
what I'm thinking, because you know something, so often, you know, somebody says, oh, the homeless guy is mentally ill or something like that. Well, you know what, Robin Williams was far from homeless.
Right.
He was far from homeless. Absolutely. Right.
Had some mental health issues.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the events that'll take place leading up to it, and the campaign and all that great stuff.
So I was mentioning the Candlelight Vigil, so that'll be on Sunday to kind of kick off the week. And then on Monday we're having a Grottos fundraiser. So it's one of those where you can just come and eat, and some part of the proceeds will go to us.
So if you're hungry, be there.
Yeah, exactly. Put down the pan, it's pizza night. No cooking on Monday night. Monday Night Football if you're into that. And then another event that we're doing education-wise is a wellness and self-care symposium. And we partner with the Wilmington Veterans Affairs for that, and it's really all about caring for yourself, not only for individuals living with mental illness, but their family members. Because I think we've said so many times here with you, Shannon, that just as important as discussing the individual who's living with mental illness is their families, because mental illness affects everyone.
Right, and this is a way for you to provide the support and coping mechanisms for the entire family.
Correct.
Right, yeah. I think it's important, you know, I think it's an issue that gets some coverage, but not nearly as much as it should get.
No.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to raise that awareness. So we're not only going to concentrate on Mental Illness Awareness Week, again, the 5th through the 11th, but we are also going to, with our Talk About It campaign, just kind of get people aware of it throughout the year, so that people think about mental illness, think about those kinds of things that they can do to support themselves, support their families. Think about those kinds of things that they can do to connect with organizations like NAMI Delaware.
Right. Now, what happens at the event if there's somebody there that I don't know if you can know yourself that you're mentally ill, you know what I mean? You know, without being formally diagnosed. But if they come and they say, you know what, I think I might have issues, what kind of support happens that day at the event? Do you have anybody there that's available to talk to these folks and maybe say, and give you some direction as to maybe where you should start if you feel like you are having issues?
Our events specifically are not going to be designed to connect people with counseling. But what they will do is connect people to NAMI, we'll connect them to services. So that's how we can proceed at that point, by mentioning both the helpline which we operate, but also a lot of the other programs that we have that are ongoing that we can connect people to.
How do you convince somebody who seems unstable to get help?
Jeez.
If I may talk about that briefly, that's one of the most difficult things to do. Because of the way that the laws are written, people, unless they are a threat to themselves or to others, cannot be forced into treatment. So you really have to work to get people to begin to accept that they may need treatment. And you've got a layer that you've got to work through, because one of the things that happens to people is that if they have mental illness, which is essentially a brain disease, that affects awareness. And just to explain it quickly, if there's something wrong with any other part of your body, it's your brain that tells you that there's something wrong. If there's something wrong with your brain, it gets very confusing.
Right. So we want to remind everybody really quick the dates for the Mental Illness Awareness Week, and they can call and contact you guys to find out where everything will be at and all the great events. Okay.
Yep, so October 5th through the 11th, and they can call us at the NAMI Delaware office, 302-427-0787, or visit our website, namidelaware.org.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, glad to see you guys are hard at work addressing mental illness issues.
Thank you, Shannan.
Thank you, Shannan.
Thank
Good
you.
to be here.
I love having you guys.
Okay.
All right. And you got a picture today.
Yes, we did. Thank you for that.
We'll talk later. We'll do lunch.
Yes.
When we return, we'll find out what Voices for the Voiceless is all about after these messages.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Accidents happen. So do huge medical bills. Find out how to get health insurance coverage by visiting ChooseHealthDE.com.
Voices for the Voiceless was designed to be a voice for the youth and the community. They educate our youth and community on the obstacles of life and how to overcome adversity. James and Adil Ismaaeel are here now to talk about Voices for the Voiceless. Yes, I'm so happy. Yes. So, okay, Voices for the Voiceless. I guess I just gave a summary, but I don't know. Well, let's talk about why did you start this?
We started Voices for the Voiceless because we realized that it was a calling for generational change. When you look at the youth, and the one thing that we can really stand up together on is the legalization of marijuana. It's kind of like, we need to have something bigger for that. We need to stand up for something larger than ourselves. We realized that violence is really plaguing our city. We realized that drug abuse is plaguing our suburban areas. We realized that mental illness awareness is kind of, not really being worked on effectively by the youth, the ones that are being affected by it. So, we just had a calling, and it was time for us to move, and we just had to do it.
So these are the things that you saw in the community that helped you to put together a plan.
Yes, absolutely.
And
yes.
so what's your plan?
I mean, well, we have on October 11th the Peace March on Wilmington. We'll be starting at 12 noon, meeting at 4th and Ferris, which is Woodlawn Park. And just march down 4th Street, turn up Market, and end in Rodney Square, and there we'll be announcing some programs that we'll be introducing to the City of Wilmington, and programs that, some of them are new, some of them are old, but some excited ones. I mean, seeing as because we're on here with you, I'll give you one that we're going to give. We're working with Carvin Higgins, who's a 2-time Grammy Award-winning producer. He has his organization called Rage Against the Ratchet. He's worked with Music Soul Child, Jill Scott, Chris Brown, and he has agreed to do our Music as Mentoring program. And so that will be one of the many programs that we'll be introducing on October 11th.
Well, how do you guys plan to keep the kids engaged? I mean, I think the march is great, and I think you both see this. There'll be a march and a lot of positive press and good feedback for a while, but then kids and habits, people revert back to what they were doing.
Yeah.
So what do you do to keep the momentum going? How are you going to, what do you do to change these kids all the time and not just some of the time?
Well, Adil's our program director.
Well, for me, well, you know, our next step is, you know, the mentoring program, and actually get involved with the kids. I'm actually bringing a program here on October 4th, about 10 days away. It's called the Black Man Can Institute. It's a mentoring program by means of workshops for the kids. We talk about academic excellence, financial literacy, the importance of being politically engaged, the importance of being well-dressed, entrepreneurship, and topics like that, basically to keep the kids that are in the inner cities or and at risk, just to teach them about topics that they are just not aware of, they're not taught on a daily basis, they're not even introduced to until a later age, or, you know, until, you know, they get old or whatever it is. So, you know, we're going to introduce that program here on October 4th at Byard Middle School. It's a Saturday, 10 days away. And then from there, we're going to continue to, you know, implement our mentor program through basically the same topics and for the kids inside the city.
Now, while you have the working with the youth component down, a lot of these kids, and we've discussed it earlier on this program, come from homes where maybe there's not a lot of stability in them.
Absolutely.
So how do you work with not just the kids, but maybe the parent to get them more involved? And, you know, because stabilizing the kid and stabilizing their home environment is a better outcome all the way around.
Absolutely.
Many different ways.
Do you want to take that on?
I know we're going to have many different ways. It's just so many different things. You know, we can sit here for days of the ideas and the plans that we're going to strategically put in place. But I mean, I have faith, you know, not only Adil as our program director, but you know, and not even Voices for the Voiceless alone, all the nonprofits that are coming together for this change. You know, when you go and start a nonprofit, they always ask, what's your foundation? And that's one of the first things you asked me when I came to you and talked to you about it. And our foundation, we can agree on, is unconditional love. And so when we can go around and give that unconditional love, and then the youth are able to take that in, and you know, their actions show that, their actions show nothing just but unconditional love and experience, taking from each experience, nothing is a failure, just experience. And once they understand that, once we can teach them that, I mean, everything's going to work out for themselves. Music Soul Child, seeing as we just got done talking about it, he said in one of his songs, he said, when you love somebody, all you have to do is love them, and God will work out the rest. And I believe that speaks through the work that we do. You know, with the different, obviously different strategic plans and different programs that we're going to have, it's going to be, you know, and it's not going to be easy at all. But as long as we stay true to that foundation of unconditional love, I believe that, you know, me and him and all of the other supporters that we have on board with this movement will be able to bring the change that we're looking for.
Well, you've been doing things in the community so far, so what's the reception been?
I mean, you know, everybody's saying it's much needed, you know, for young leaders like us. And,
absolutely.
And it's been, you know, a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest with you. We have conversations all the time about how can we be better.
Well, let me ask you something. What are the ways that you're trying to reach young people who are already out on the streets, getting involved with things that maybe they shouldn't be doing, you know what I mean, whether it's drugs, gangs, you know, whatever. What are you doing for those kids right now? And how are you reaching them?
Well, you know, in reality, I feel like it's a community effort through all the work that we're actually doing, but it's something that everyone has to be involved in. It's just something, you know, that I've recently just taken on through the work that I've been implementing. You know, just talking to these kids. They're human beings. They may be criminals, you know, at this point now because the acts that they're doing. But, you know, we just got to get out there and talk to them. We got to actually look them in the eye and actually talk to them. Give them a handshake. Ask them their name. Ask them, see how their day is going, right? You know, actually get into them and see what's going on inside of them versus, you know, turn a blind eye to them and abandon them like the rest of society, like their parents have abandoned them. You know, most of their parents, you know, as we experience, are on drugs, you know, in prison, are dead. You know, that's what we're looking at. So somebody has to tap in and touch these kids and touch their lives. And I think it's everyone's responsibility as a whole, with, you know, help from organizations like ours, you know, to actually implement it on a different level. But it just has to be a community effort, basically, and just tap into the organizations that are available.
Let me ask you something. Do you think this works better for you guys, being young black males?
Yeah.
It helps you connect, you know, I mean, because you connect on a different level.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
And when they see people that look like them from the same community as them, I feel like, yes, it does. Some people will turn an eye to it, some people won't like it at all.
And it's not like you, I mean, you know, I'm not saying, you might have gone through things that you can say, listen, I can relate to you, you know, so, and it changes the playing field.
And as Adil said, when you say you're going to teach the importance of your appearance, we want them to know that we are still more than our appearance. Exactly. The suit and tie does not make me the character in which I have within me, and the things that I stand for make me who I am. That makes the suit.
Just a better package.
You know what I mean? And if we're wearing jeans and we're wearing a t-shirt, it's not the jeans that make us, it's the character that we bring. So, you know, when we're talking about different ways that we're going out there through drug diversion, through peer-to-peer mentoring, you know, mental illness awareness campaigns, things like that. I mean, there's so many different things that we are actively doing in the community. Harold Russell, who's with Rage Against the Ratchet, he has a master's and he is a counselor. So he goes in and he has this routine to where he shows them the end result of all bad choices that we make throughout life. And that's one of the most effective tools that we have. We work, you know, we have support from, you know, just great organizations that, you know, may not be on paper as supporters, but just teaching us things. United Way of Delaware is a great, you know, teacher to the community. Absolutely. So when we adopt different ideas and adopt different ways of living from all the people who have done it before us, not just United Way, not just Rage Against the Ratchet, but Dr. King, Malcolm X, and adopt these ways that actually worked, then we believe that, you know, with, you know, the change in generation, that we will be able to have a better influence because we do look like them and because we have experienced the adversity that they're going through. Right. But we just decided to take it a different way and decide to be a statistic no longer.
Okay, so real quick before we go, date of the march again, and how can they contact you? And don't make it long, Keith.
Oh, okay, day of the march is October 11th, which is a Saturday. Starts at 12 noon. You can meet us at Woodlawn Park. You can contact me on email. That's voices.4voiceless@gmail.com, or you can contact us at 302-399-4699.
Well, thank you both for being here, and good luck with all the work that you have ahead of you, and I'm sure you'll be doing great things, and I'd like to hear from you again.
Absolutely.
You will.
Thank you.
Okay, sit down, don't go anywhere. Friends of Historic Riverview Cemetery are up when we return next.
I want my Ed TV.
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 Now.
I want my Ed TV.
I want my Ed TV.
Friends of Historic Riverview Cemetery are hard at work bringing new life to the cemetery. Lee Anderson and Kate Woolhere are here now with the details and all of the great updates with the cemetery. Hello, Lee.
Hi, Shannon. We were here in May, and now
Yes.
it's September already.
Can you believe it?
No, I can't.
So what's been going on? Because, you know, I guess it was not just starting, but you were still doing a lot of the preliminary work, so now you're more into like a lot of the work, right?
Well, we were giving you sort of the origins of how we all got started last
Right.
time, but today we wanted to talk a little bit about the garden club at Riverview and also about the renovations at the chapel and a special dedication ceremony coming up at the end of October. Maybe Kate can tell you about the garden club.
Okay.
Well, I was going to talk a little bit about some of the green initiatives at the cemetery.
I was going to ask you, how is the cemetery going green? That is a good question.
We started with composting.
Really?
We got 5 bins, 4 foot by 4 foot bins, wooden bins, and we started recycling all the waste in the cemetery. from weeding the gardens to raking up leaves and any other green debris.
Right.
It gets composted on site. And so that got us started.
Whose idea was that, Kate?
Mine.
Yeah, that was smart though. That was a good idea.
I compost at home.
Because when I saw a green cemetery, I was like, really, a green cemetery?
Yeah.
Wow.
So what we're trying to do is recycle whatever resources we have. People put out at Christmas and at Mother's Day and other events flowers on the graves of their relatives, and so we have taken to recycling them. Instead of pulling up a dumpster and throwing them into the dump, what we do with volunteers is try and recycle the bulbs or plants into one of the 4 garden areas that we have. We recycle the plant containers themselves, so none of that ends up in a landfill.
Right.
And so that's really kind of cool. And as a result, we've developed 4 different gardens throughout our 40-acre cemetery.
That's nice. And I'm sure it looks beautiful.
It
and
does
we have
look
some
beautiful.
pictures too that we'll show too. And I think the people in the neighborhood have to appreciate the improvements that you're bringing to the cemetery. And there's some beautiful flowers right there. And, you know, it just looks very nice.
Yeah, that's the daylily bed on Washington Street. It's 587 feet long. It's huge.
Wow.
And it does beautify the neighborhood, as well as the daffodil bed on Market Street, where thousands of cars and pedestrians walk. There's now signs of life and signs of hope.
Right.
And so we wanted to give some dedicated attention to the four garden areas that we have. So we started a garden club on the 4th Saturday of every month. We start at 8:30 in the morning and we go to about 10:30, and we give a couple of hours to the flower beds. We add new plants, we weed, we mulch, you know, whatever's necessary, and we get to meet new and exciting people that are interested in the cemetery. So that's great too.
And I want to mention that this is all with volunteers that you guys are doing this.
That's exactly right. There's no paid employees.
Right.
Everybody's a volunteer, including us.
Which is great, and it's nice to see that people are willing to dedicate time, because some of these people don't even live in the area.
True.
Right.
They come from all over.
Right.
Yeah.
We get some people from the neighborhood, and we get some people who maybe have relatives buried there, and they are concerned and want to, you know, help maintain the cemetery. But it is all volunteer, and that's pretty unusual.
Right.
We feel really blessed.
High school students can come out too. We've had students from Wilmington Friends School and Sanford School both come out on days of service.
Helping us maintain them as well.
Yeah.
And I think when Lee was here last time, some of the history that you brought up with the cemetery, I definitely didn't know anything about, and I thought it was interesting, and making sure that all of this is still preserved is a great thing, and it beautifies the community as well.
It does, and 42 acres in a place in Wilmington right now that we're hoping the cemetery can offer some peace and comfort and hope to the surrounding neighborhoods where there's been a lot of violence in recent months. Regarding the history, I think I mentioned before that Riverview has been listed in the National Register of Historic Places, and that took several years of research, again by volunteers. We're going to be dedicating a national historic marker, October 29th at noon. Mayor Williams will be making some remarks, and Senator Henry and others. So we're just really hoping the community will come out, learn a little bit about the history of Riverview, and just be part of that dedication.
What do you think you want, not only the people that live in the community, but everyone to know most about the cemetery?
Well, cemeteries don't take care of themselves. This is really important education for the next generation. Once a burial happens, there's a lot of upkeep, okay? And so we believe that our volunteer and partnership model may set an example for other communities. That this is a library of lives. Riverview is multicultural, over 19 nationalities. It's a public cemetery. It's open to all. There's potter's fields at Riverview, there's baby sections, and so it requires all of us to be good stewards of the land and good stewards of history.
Now, what's going to happen with the chapel? How are the renovations going on that?
We have raised about $100,000 so far.
You.
We need $200,000 more. And with a few large gifts before the end of the year, we can start major construction and possibly occupy the building next year. So please, please put that word out.
We're looking at a picture of it. So when you occupy the building, what will the chapel actually be?
It's a small building. It's only about 1,000 square feet in the basement and on the main level, but the main level will become a multi-purpose room. So families can meet there before or after a burial. and get some, either have a reception or a small service there. It's also comfort from the weather. Right now we have no toilets on the premise.
No.
We have no electricity, no water.
Wow.
The cemetery will also, the chapel will also be a place where we can actually meet with people to conduct cemetery business and sell graves and do genealogy research. We're doing all that now via our phone and computers.
Right.
And meeting people outside. Some of our volunteers want indoor clerical tasks, and we need a building in order to do the clerical tasks. So it will just open up enormous potential for the cemetery.
And most importantly, perhaps, is storage of hundreds of years of the cemetery records, which are all scattered in different spots right now. This would be one place where all of the cemetery records through time would have a space.
We believe it'll be a destination for tour groups too, school groups, people that are traveling through the area to stop and find the veterans and find ancestors and people that built the city and the county and the state. We have many of the founding families of Brandywine 100 buried at Riverview. Hamby, Weldon, Forward, Shipley, Talley, the names go on and on, Zebley.
Right.
The street names, you see them at Riverview.
And you know what I thought was interesting from when you were here before is that one of the first female lawyers in Delaware is buried there.
Yeah, she's in the large public mausoleum. And that large community mausoleum was the first one in Delaware. And that was one of the special things.
And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
How can people volunteer? What do they need to do if they want to get involved? They want to help you guys, the garden club and all of that great stuff.
The second Saturday every month from 9 to 12 we do an outdoor project. So just show up on the second Saturday, 9 to 12. And now the fourth Saturday, a garden. If you specifically want to do gardening work, that's on the fourth Saturday.
8:30 to 10:30.
And if anybody was interested in donating?
Send it to our post office box, not the street address. So the post office is 2173. Wilmington, Delaware, 19899. If it's a $10 donations, if it's a $10,000 donations, they're all adding up.
Yeah, and it makes a difference,
It
doesn't
does
it?
make a difference, yeah.
Well, good for you ladies, and I'm so glad that the friends have come together and everything is working out, and the beautification that you've done on the streetscapes and everything looks beautiful, and you know, I'm sure the community really appreciates it.
Yes, they tell us all the time.
I know they do. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
You guys should be very happy
Thank
for
you
doing
for
that.
having us again.
Thank you for having
no
us,
problem.
Shannan.
We like the updates. So you know something, I'm sure you'll be back with more updates. And after we get through the winter and you know into the spring and everything, I'm sure there'll be tons of updates. And I'm sure that chapel, you've reached your goal.
Oh, we're going to get there.
I know you will. I know you will. I have confidence.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. And I guess that's about all the time we have today. So for everybody here at WITN Channel 22, I'm Shannan Harris, and we'll see you next time.